Ever find yourself wondering why a planet experiences different seasons? It's not just about how far we are from the sun. It's a lot more than that. So let's dive deeper into this cosmic phenomena, which is laid back and in a very easy to understand manner. So imagine this picture this that you see some people assume that because Earth orbit isn't a perfect circle, so the varying distance from the sun must be can be said as the driving force behind the seasons, right? But that's not the case. It's not as straightforward as it seems. So it's totally different. So our orbit is a bit elliptical, but the difference is not only about 1.3 million miles, which is around 3% of the overall distance. So here's the main thing. During winter in the northern hemisphere, we are actually closer to the sun. We are actually closer to the sun than we are during the summer. So I'll tell you the basics behind it. So the real motive behind the seasons is Earth's axial tilt. So picture a planet as this giant spinning top with a bit of slant, something like that. So as we move around the sun, sometimes the northern hemisphere gets tilted toward the sun, and other times is the southern hemisphere turn that causes the change in the season. So this tilt is what brings about the change in the seasons and the magical dances in the difference of the season. In winters, the days are short and the sunlight hits it at a very low angle. So, if you can picture it like a very soft, broad brushstroke spreading out over a larger area, so this atmosphere gets to play with that gentle sunlight, spreading it out as it travels towards the surface of the earth. So, and in the meantime, during the winter season, the days stretch out. Days are very long, and the sunlight comes in at a very steeper angle as compared to the winter, so it gets concentrated into energy into a very smaller and a more focused area. So now forget about obsessing how far we are from the sun at any given moment. It's all about how earth stills doing this work in the sunlight. So winter, spring, summer and fall, every season, even monsoon, they are just the result of the celestial tango as we take a really joyride around the sun. Did you ever looked up at the night sky when you were roaming in your terrace or balcony and wondered about these cool constellations that are made of stars? So, well, let me tell you that it's a bit more like connecting dots in the sky and looking up at the universe. So there are a total of 88 constellations up there, making up all sort of things like animals, objects, and sometimes even a dragon. But the real twist about the constellation is that those stars that make up these constellations, they are not really that close. They are not the usual BFFs. They are actually way apart, and some may even separated by tens or hundreds of light years. So imagine that from where you are standing on Earth, it might look like an Orion's warrior with a shield. Uh, but in space term, they are just very very scattered neighbors. Now, don't get me wrong here. So these constellations aren't like your star squads. They are just random stars hanging out nearby each other from from our point of view when we look up them in the night sky. They are very different in each in size, even in terms of brightness. So it's like a celestial potluck, and we are just lucky to see them together. Even though these constellations are in scientifically tightly knit together groups, they do make a very stargazing a whole lot easier. Think of them as a sky's ways of breaking things into a more manageable chunks by connecting the dots and giving them pretty cool names. So it helps astronomers remember which star is which and which is which. So it's easier to pick them. So it's like having a free own star map in our hands with very cute pictures. And here's the cool parts: the stories and the myths around these constellations, right? So they're like icing on this cosmic cake. They make these stars very memorable, making a backstory that sticks in our minds. So the next time you are stargazing in your balcony or your terrace, so remember these constellations may not be very close neighbors, but they sure know how to tell a very good tale in the night sky. So the next time when you stand in your balcony, not only think them as a constellation, but think of them of the science behind it as well, that how apart they are and what the difference in the age and size. So it'll give you a very new perspective about these constellations. Thank you. Now moving on to our next segment. Our next segment is about the moon, and it's not just about the moon, but it's about the backside of the moon, or I can say the dark side of the moon. The one that inspired all sort of cool stuffs like albums, novels, or even sometimes your favorite video games. But the moon's got a lot more surprise for us, and it's not as dark as it sounds. Talking about the dark side of the moon. Now, you've probably heard that we only see one side of the moon, from our Earth, from our spheres, from a balcony, from a terrace, and that other side is is in dark, right? But I need to correct you here. So I mean, and let's get to the record straight. Take a look at the moon phases, and you'll see that it's not all darkness back there. During a If you have to put it during a full moon, the side facing up is all lit up. But what about the other side? It's in the shadows, right? Maybe or maybe not. So I'm going to tell you here. Any other time of the month, we are only catching a mere glimpse of the moon. And what happens to the rest of the light? It's parting on the far side, also which we term as the dark side, as we are talking about it. And so if you need any proof about it, you can Google and check out those mind blowing images of the pics of the dark side of the moon from 1959. The USSR Luna 3 snapped the first ever shots of the far side of the moon. And if you can't Google it, I will let me tell you what it is. It's not a pitch black party, it is a well lit, shining courtesy of the sun. These pictures not only burst the myth that the dark side is always in the dark, but also drop a major bombshell, which is the rock over there is much lighter in the color and than the side that we know in the brightest of the moon. So guess what? A side might just be the real dark side after all, since we can't shine those fine stones on our side. So who of us, neither you nor me, would have knew that the moon has its own little secrets, right? So stay curious, keep exploring space, and always come back to the channel for debunking these space theories. Now, having already talked about the dark side of the moon, having already touched the topic of the moon, I have brought you another moon theory, or if I can rather put it in a way that it's a myth about the moon. So it's that whether Earth's shadow really causes the lunar phase, or I can say that did you ever wonder why moon looks so different at different times or at different days? The phases of the moon. So if you have not wondered about it, so and if you can now, so let me break it down for you in a very very simple terms. So you know how sometimes the moon is sorry, sometimes the moon is all bright and round, and the other times it's just a thin silver layer, right? So it's not your shadows you that's playing trick with the moons and the moon shadows, like some people might think. No, but it's not about how the sun doing it. So if you can imagine this, a picture is like the moon is like a body orbiting around the earth. So when the sun is on the one side of the earth and a very one moon is on the other side, we get a full moon, which we can see a complete circle. So that is when the sun's light shines on the whole moon, and it looks like this big glowing ball in the night sky. So this is how the full moon works. But a very one moon, when decides to get cozy up between a planet Earth and the sun, so that's called a new moon. The side facing us is in the dark, and that's why it seems like the moon has disappeared. So it's a bit of sneaky, right? Now, as the moon takes its trips around the earth, the amount of sunlight we see changes throughout. So it's like a very light dimmer switch which is going up and down, up and down, up and down in different ways, like wax on and wax off. So that's why we see those different phases of the moon, from ranging from full moon to the night moon and everything in between, all the phases of the moon. Also, let's talk about the lunar eclipses as well. These are like these moon, different versions of moons of a sneak attack. So it happens when the Earth slides right between the sun and the moon, throwing some shadow of a lunar planet. So the moon gets all dark, but you don't have to worry about it. It just for a very little while, for a night is only. So there you have it, the moon's phase and the eclipses explained without any fancy terms in a very easy manner, like explaining it to a fifth grader. So if you enjoyed this little chat, hit the like and the subscribe button for more simple explanations about the wonders of the universe, and catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.